Hi, welcome to this probably quite emotional, maybe, I don't know, let's see how it goes, video, which is going to be me talking about a recent diagnosis I had for ADHD. I haven't posted a video, I haven't posted a blog, I've written some blog posts, but yeah, everything's kind of not been going to plan for the last 18 months or so, and this is a big part of why. So I'm just going to kind of go and talk about why I wanted to seek a diagnosis, the last 18 months and how that's been while I've been waiting, the referral getting passed over to a company called Solutions for Diagnostics by the NHS, and what will be next. Yeah, this is my raw, unfiltered, probably very rambly, yeah, I'm very aware of how much that I'm going to run out of time, video on my journey to an ADHD diagnosis, which I hate the word. I hate saying the word my journey because it sounds so like, but it's been like really emotional and a roller coaster of all the feelings and stress. And I felt like I've had a sort of identity crisis in all of that as well. So it's been quite the 18 months, year and a half of a lot of self-doubt, a lot of imposter syndrome, a lot of frustration, a lot of stress, a lot of anger, and a lot of kind of internalized trauma being brought to the surface. So I guess I will start with why I wanted to get a diagnosis for ADHD. I have always kind of had the impression that my brain works slightly differently to other people. I think any person that has ADHD or is neurodivergent in any way kind of will feel the same as that, like that their brain is just different to how other people are and that they've never quite fitted in. I've certainly felt like that all my life. I was like the odd kid at school, the weird kid, the kind of like slightly gothy, emo kid that just didn't quite fit in. And that's not to say that I didn't have friends. I actually got on with quite a lot of people. But yeah, I never felt that I really had a place anywhere. I was always told as a kid that I talked too much, that I was really not hyperactive, but I interrupted all the time, and if I wasn't interrupting people, I was off daydreaming and living in some sort of fantasy land, and I was, just not what people expected a child my age to be. Yeah, it was always, nothing really ever fit. There's things I have anxiety of, there's things I've suffered with, like there's things that have definitely affected my mood and made me lower mood and potentially made me depressed. I have a lot of trauma from my childhood, which is a story for another day, but kind of all started, as I think a lot of kids' trauma does, when my parents divorced, and yeah, going through that kind of like series of horribleness. But yeah, it was always something, there was always something that I felt was wrong with me and something that wasn't quite right and something that didn't fit in. Always had problems with my weight. I've always had problems with how much, like with food, with either not eating, disordered eating, binge eating, living with, like, coming to terms with like living with an eating disorder for a lot of my life has been another thing, and another thing that potentially has been because of undiagnosed ADHD, because it's kind of that seeking dopamine kind of stuff, food that tastes good, I want to eat. And so that has been a lot as well, like that's been one of those things that has just brought a lot of feelings to the surface. I decided to go for a diagnosis because a friend of mine, Louise from Pink Pear Bear, talked about having a diagnosis herself, and watching her TikToks and watching her videos and reading her blog posts and just finding out, but like thinking how relatable it was to me, made me think maybe this is the thing, maybe this is a thing that I've had all my life that I've never really known, and that might be the reason why I am the way I am. Or maybe the way I do things the way I do, I guess. Before I like even thought about ADHD as a possibility, because it was really something I'd never considered until about, I think it was February 2021, maybe. That makes sense. About 18, yeah, over 18 months ago. I thought I was autistic for a long time, but I had a lot of traits that were very similar to other people with autism spectrum disorder, and that was kind of something I thought maybe I was, but I knew, like, in my age, getting a diagnosis for autism itself was probably never going to happen, and I kind of was I was reluctant to do anything, because it was like, well, there's not really anything anyone can do for me that way. So it had long been in my mind that, like, potentially neurodivergence was kind of really where my brain was. Louise's account for how she got diagnosed and the experience she had really made me feel quite hopeful, and something I wanted to pursue for myself. So I did a lot of research, looked into a lot of like ADHD traits, and kind of related to what I knew of myself as a child from what I can remember, and it did fit really well. And I went to my GP and I asked for a referral, and I spoke to my GP about having a referral through NHS Right to Choose, which my GP was not really understanding of or reluctant to do, and therefore it was just kind of, no, you're just going to be put on the NHS waiting list. I knew that there was resources and groups and things that I could have joined to kind of like fight my case, but I was, at that time when I went to see my GP, I was really struggling with everything. Everything was feeling on top of me. We were like, what, a year in with COVID, and I just couldn't, like, I did not have the mental capacity to deal with it. I told her I felt like I was just stuck in my life and I couldn't move forward with anything, and I was stagnant because I didn't know what was wrong with me and I needed an answer. And I felt that an ADHD assessment might help with that. I did briefly speak about autism as well, but didn't go any further than that with my GP. She agreed to refer me. The referral came through, and I was told they were still seeing people that had been referred to them in like January 2019 for where I am, and that the waiting list was going to be a long time. And even my GP was like, you might not, you know, she was trying to kind of say like, not everyone with ADHD go with meds. I don't know, she was kind of just trying to be like, if you like look for the coping mechanisms that kind of that you can do now. So I signed up to have CBT therapy, which was another very long waiting list. I started after doing CBT therapy for about 6 months, I went back to the doctor and sort of said, no, my mental health is still struggling, like I need help, maybe I should try antidepressants again, maybe this time they'll be different. And I tried and they weren't very helpful. And then towards the end of July, I think it was this year, or may have been towards the beginning of July, but there was some delays. I was asked by the Surrey and Borders Partnership, which take care of the mental health or ADHD and autism services here in Hampshire, that my referral could be passed over to Solutions for Diagnostics, and that would essentially speed up my assessment and I would get it faster. So I was like, well, yeah, like I'm not going to say no to that. I want that. I need to know. This has been stressing me out. The last like year and a bit at that point had been horrible, that it had been stressful. I hadn't been able to work. I hadn't been able to do anything. My executive dysfunction was at a complete low. Like I just could not do anything. And people were asking, oh, why aren't you working? Why aren't you doing this? I just can't. Like I couldn't even explain why. There was no reason. I just could not do anything. I got very wrapped up in a video game, which I still am playing a lot of today, which kind of became my day-to-day thing, because it was just like, this is the only thing at the moment that's working to distract me from all the rubbish that I'm having to deal with in my head. And it all kind of came to a head, and then they asked me to provide some solutions for my referral got passed over to Solutions for Diagnostics, who got in contact with me very quickly and said, we've received your referral, we need this from you, you need to fill in these questionnaires about ADHD, also some comorbidity questionnaires about anxiety and depression and OCD, which I filled in, and that went sent off and everything. And then they had to ask for my blood pressure, my pulse and my weight. I have not been like actively weighing myself out of choice for a long time, because it's something I struggle with, and trying to fix my eating disorder at the same time has meant like weighing myself often leads to triggering binge eating or not eating, and I felt very anxious about having to do that, so it took me a long time. And also I got COVID after in the summer, which meant I was ill for about 3 weeks with it. So because I had to go and have those measurements taken like at the doctor's or at a pharmacy, I like couldn't really leave the house for a few weeks, or I didn't want to leave the house for a few weeks until I was feeling better. Once I got those reading in, the appointments came through, and they were giving me like several dates I could choose from through email. And it all just happened really quickly, and I think even that was hard for me to process, because I was just like, hang on a minute, I've been told I'm going to be waiting about 4 years for this, and now it's suddenly right here, it's like hitting me in the face. I wasn't ready for it, because I kind of mentally prepared myself to wait, and even though waiting was not good and was really not doing me any favours, I felt like all those imposter syndrome things of like, well, what if I've been making all of this up? What if I don't have ADHD? What means if they say, no, you don't fit this profile for this? All those thoughts were going through my head, and that was making me panic, and that was making me worry, and that was making me anxious in itself, as well as having to provide those readings, which I did, but still. And then once I provided those measurements, I received an appointment within a couple of weeks. The way I'm going to just go through like how Diagnostics for Solutions work, because it's slightly different from other companies that I've heard of from other people's experiences. For me, what they did was they booked 2 appointments in, one with like a kind of like counsellor, I guess it would have been, who went through a big long questionnaire with me of just kind of like yes or no questions, and then I had a psychiatric appointment afterwards where I received the diagnosis. And that was within the space of 2 weeks of each other. So the 2-week wait in between was quite strange, because the questionnaire happened with like one afternoon. We went through all the questions, and she said, I can't diagnose you, but I can tell you what the profile says from the answers you've given. And she said, it is likely that you have ADHD. So I was kind of like, well, yeah, I felt like I knew that I did. I was like very sure that ADHD was kind of the reason why my brain is the way it is, and like why I've struggled with things for so long. But not having the like official diagnosis was also a bit like uneasy, I guess would be the right way to say. Anyway, 2 weeks went by relatively stress-free, where I had my psychiatric appointment with a doctor over a Zoom meeting. They were both over Zoom meetings, so I didn't have to go anywhere. I could do it in my own home, which was better for me, not having to leave the house and go somewhere that I wasn't comfortable with. And that was around 30 minutes, the appointment. I think it was supposed to be longer, but he asked me a series of questions. Straight away said, like, you don't need to be anxious about this. I can see that you're anxious on camera. And I was like, because it was like, have I been pinning all my hopes on this one thing, which I don't know if even though I'd been told, yeah, I probably have ADHD, I didn't know if I did. It was a very surreal kind of experience. It was very weird. He went through some questions with me, asking like that just went into a bit more depth about the like yes or no questionnaire that I'd done 2 weeks prior. Things like, do I struggle with eye contact? And even now, like, I know I'm consciously looking away from my camera. And I was like, yeah, that's one thing. I struggle with anxiety. I struggle with a lot of things. He was like, how is your mind? Is it like really quiet and calm, or is it really busy? And I was like, my mind is chaos all the time. Like, I have to listen to stuff to distract myself from overthinking, like to try and go to sleep. And my sleep pattern is awful. And having ADHD has potentially cost me jobs and work, because I'm so distracted all the time, and like I can't focus on things. And even things I enjoy, I was just like, even books that I love to read, and books I've loved, I will read again and again and again. I will still read a page or two and then put them down and pick up my phone to scroll through social media or things that I really don't care about. Or I will like scroll through messages, like you like go through like my messaging apps, even though there's no message, just for like out of habit. And all kinds of weird, like, you know, and I would get caught up so easily in like mindless scrolling. It's not even funny how many rabbit holes I've jumped down because of that. How many hobbies I've started, like ADHD tax I've talked about with friends who have said, yeah, it's a thing, because you'll buy stuff and you'll forget it exists. And I do, or I'll remember it exists, and then I'll just be like, okay, well, maybe I'll pick that up one day. Like, I bought a violin at the start of the pandemic to be like, yeah, I'm going to learn to play this. No, I still can't. I have started so many hobbies. I've impulse bought so many candles in the last 18 months, and books, that I have that cupboard that, like, with the Cordelia and James tapestry on, that is full of candles. Like, not like from bottom to top, but like the cupboard in there, which is like where I keep all of my like witchy stuff, is full of candles. Like, and they're just, that table there that you can't see, but there's a table there full of candles. There's a candle on that table. There are candles all over my house. It has like become a problem. Like, I have videos on this YouTube channel of me showing off candles. It was like my coping mechanism of impulse buying, because like they're nice, and also they were like bookish themed and witchy themed, and I was like, yeah, this is kind of aesthetic I want to go for in my house. But it's like that kind of stuff is a problem. Like cameras that I've bought, okay, fair enough, like with the cameras, like I can't actually take photos, I need it for work and stuff, but I don't use it as often as I probably could. Diaries, planners, notebooks, stationery that I've been like, yeah, this is going to get my life together. All those kind of like things that I've started, like clubs that I've joined and like quit after a few weeks, subscriptions that I have forgot to cancel because I just have, and has cost me so much money. It's ridiculous how stressful something like this can have on your day-to-day impact. And I laugh because it does sound kind of ridiculous, but it's been hell. Not the shame that comes with a lot of that stuff, the frustration at not being able to kind of like cook proper meals, or the stress I feel going to a shop and having to buy food, and the eating disorder that has been a part of my life for 20 odd years now, and the wasted opportunities I feel like I've had. And when I ended the conversation with the doctor, he said, like, how would you feel if I told you you didn't have ADHD? And I was like, well, that's it, I don't then. Like, that thought straight away went through my head, and I was like, I'd be really disappointed, and I'd be really worried about what to expect for the future, and I wouldn't really know what to do with myself, and I would feel sad. And he was like, well, I'm not here to make you sad, I'm not here to disappoint you, you have textbook combined ADHD. And I felt relief after all this time, being able to put a name on why I am the way I am. And even though it's not like the defining aspect of my personality, it is a big part of that. And I've had family say, oh, you know, it doesn't matter, we're still gonna love you, blah, blah, blah. My sister in particular has said that, which I appreciate and love her for, but it is life-changing for me. And it has brought up a lot of feelings in the past of like how things have worked out, how they may have been able to work out better. At the end of the conversation, he said, I would also suggest that you have ASD. And even though I wasn't going in for that diagnosis, or knew that I could do much about that, it's something, like I said, I'd suspected about myself. And I hadn't really said that to this company, that I said I thought I was autistic too. So hearing him say that, like, from that conversation and the answers I obviously gave, was another weight off my shoulders. He also then he said to get back in touch with Solutions for Diagnostics after our conversation and request an assessment for autism, which I've done, and I'm now I've received the questionnaires. I filled them in and sent them back, which is surprising for me, but it's something like I finally want answers for, to actually, like, surprising as in to have something come through and me action it straight away. That doesn't happen very often unless it's something I really need or feel like I want. And so the next step is to have this autism diagnosis appointment assessment, which will probably be in about 3 weeks' time. But to have that kind of confirmation that, yeah, I'm probably autistic too, I have ADHD, and that's just how my brain is. Like, it's not that there's necessarily something wrong with me. I just have to live differently, slightly. I process things differently from other people, and that's okay. Sometimes it's horrible. The next steps are, I have decided that I would like to try ADHD medication because I want to see if it will make a difference to my day-to-day life, I'm not saying that it's going to make my life perfect or like the best it's ever been, but if it can help me refocus and give me a bit of clarity and kind of get things done that I need to get done, then I really want to try. And that will be the next part. I have been told the medication I'm starting on, the dosage I'm starting on. I'm waiting for the pharmacy to get into touch with me to action that. And he's requested that I monitor my blood pressure, my pulse and my weight in this period. I'm trying not to get caught up in having to measure my weight because I don't want to lead that to kind of episodes of struggling with food, which I think I may do anyway, given what I've heard about ADHD medication can have an effect on your appetite and things like that. So it's something I'm very conscious of. But I'm trying to put that to one side in my mind and be like, hang on, this isn't about my weight. This is about getting my mind in a much better place, which will hopefully help with the eating disorder. Because if I'm kind of focusing on the better things and I'm doing the things I want to do and being more productive with my life and just getting some order in that chaos that I've been experiencing for 33 years, which according to my raid team makes me ancient, which is great. I think it will be a good thing. I'm going to write about this on my blog, which you can follow, www.candyflossdreams.net. Really need to change the name to that, or I may actually just start diverting everything to awitchesreading.com, because that kind of feels like a better place to start this. I've been writing now, since 2013, 2012, 2013. It's a long time, and I finally feel that I have something I can contribute and something I can offer again and write about in a way that is helpful to other people. I hope it's helpful. I hope this has been rambling but helpful for the 25 minutes that I've gone on, and I'm not going to edit because, like, I don't have the energy. But yeah, overall, my experience with Solutions for Diagnostics was positive and is positive. I will probably film more of these videos after I've kind of gone through the medication aspect to see maybe keep like some sort of diary thing to see how I'm getting on. I probably won't, because like, yeah, ADHD will be like, you'll forget. But yeah, this is my story of why and how I got diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 33. I will link wherever I post this on my blog, but it'll probably be across both in some variation. You can also follow me on Instagram at @awitchesreading, I think. Or if you really care about what I do in Final Fantasy 14, you can follow me on Instagram at Avalon_Lefay. I will post links because that's the sort of thing you should do with YouTube videos anyway. I have to take my son to nursery, so I'm gonna go. Thank you for listening and watching this rambly video of nonsense. I will see you soon. Bye.